Because we are essentially putting a liquid on here, we can see the change of color of the vinyl. For the best bang for buck upgrade you can find, the fact that it's a measurable improvement, this turntable isn't plugged into anything. Here are some tools to take care of your vinyl collection on a budget. Item number one, a portable manual record cleaning kit for regular maintenance and also for those records you might pick up from a vintage shop. You can look at something like this. So essentially what we're going to do is use this brush here, but not a dry brush. We're actually going to use this specialized record care solution that conveniently is included with the brush. And what we're going to do, it even gives us some nice lines here so that we know how many times we'll be able to use the brush. We are going to put some liquid into the brush. And in fact, we're going to wait 5 minutes for this brush to get wet. So it is now 5 minutes later. Our brush is appropriately wet. Something a lot of people get stuck with something like this is it directional? The answer is often no. In this particular case, the answer is yes. Audio-Technica have included a nice little arrow here so that we can be sure which way to put it on. Basically what we're going to do here is just lay it down on top of the vinyl record. And look, to be honest with you, if your motor can take it, you can use a little bit of elbow grease to really get down into the groove. And what you'll notice is that because we are essentially putting a liquid on here, we can see the change of color of the vinyl, and that sort of lets us know that we've covered all the surface area. And then my little tip is to always bring it right over the edge like that so we can get rid of any final dust. Nice little touch on this guy that's absent from a lot of others is it does have this little, it's not really a rubber, but this little item down here that we can then essentially wipe this guy clean again so he's ready for the next go. So, very handy to have. Anytime I put on a vinyl, I use a very simple brush. Like this guy here, again from Audio-Technica. And in fact, the reason I like the 6013 is this is a dual action. So we've got some outer, stronger brush arms to really push off harder debris, but there is also a nice, soft, almost velvety sort of section on the inside. Combined, they're essentially all you need to really get essential surface dust off of vinyl. Much the same way as the previous one, we're just going to lay it down on the record, apply a little bit of pressure. The idea here really is not to let the record slow down at all. We do want that dust to sort of be collecting against the brush as it comes around. And then as always, continuing the brush along its path to the edge of the record will stop you getting sort of a line of dust. All right, so now I've got a lovely, clean vinyl record playing here. But like I said, even as this guy is playing, there is dust settling in on it. And there is dust, there will be dust, collecting against our styli. Item number one for me is really like a weekly maintenance thing. But I really do recommend it, especially if we are using old vintage records and things like that. You'd be amazed what can collect in a record groove. So this little guy is essentially a liquid. Very handily, it comes with a little brush on the end here. Very carefully, put the brush past the styli, then bring it up against the styli and bring it back towards ourselves. So 3 or 4 wipes is all you'll really need. Just to clarify though, this is not exactly for removing dust that will often get caught on the styli. It's more just for maintaining the integrity of it and avoiding grit and grime sticking to it. For everyday applications though, a styli brush is essential. I would strongly recommend for the best bang for buck upgrade you can find to your vinyl rig, go and get one of these brushes. If it hasn't been done for even a couple of weeks, I start to notice, and a quick wipe is really all you need to get the most out of your vinyl again. Now, because of how fine the fibers are in the brush, you can literally see the line on it that you're tracing, which is really handy to know that you have actually made solid contact with it. Now, they give you enough clearance from the plastic that it's very low risk that you're actually going to damage your styli against this thing. But obviously with all of this stuff, we need to take care. I've got one more little tip for you guys here, and this one is something that I've been having a bit of fun with. There's a smartphone app that essentially measures the wow and flutter, that is the constant rotation speed of your turntable. What I have found is that something like a disk stabilizer will improve the wow and flutter. And using the app I mentioned before, it's actually a measurable thing. We may have a link to that app down in the description there. So really, what I like to do with this guy is turn the table off first. This is going to add a reasonable amount of weight for the motor to pull. So if you have a turntable that's got an exposed platter, I don't hate the idea of giving it a slight rotation, but we do that after we've put this on. So we're going to start to rotate this a little bit. And simple as that. These things are $80 at retail. The fact that it's a measurable improvement for such a low output is rarely heard of in the hi-fi world, especially in the Vital world. So that is one I can absolutely bank on. Absolutely last in the list, when we are all done listening to our vinyl, I strongly, strongly recommend investing in some anti-static record sleeves. This cover is going to help maintain a low static. It's also got a soft pouch at the back that'll help with anti-scratching. Really, this for me is the last touch. And I in fact like to put in the back of the sleeve. It's a nice way to sort of keep your vinyl on display. Okay, so now we've gone to all this work to sort of get the record ready to go, and you might be thinking, you talked about dust settling on the record, and sure, that might be the case here, but at home I've got a lid for my turntable. Amazing, lids are great. It's sort of protecting our tone arm from any kids that might want to buy. But really, we don't want the lid involved whatsoever when we're actually playing back. That is because, and I'm going to show you here, this turntable isn't plugged into anything. So essentially, it's a mechanical thing that is happening. As the needle tracks in the groove, it's producing an analog signal. And really, the job of this device, essentially, is to amplify that signal in a way that we can then connect it to an amplifier. So much like in a hi-fi space, where we'll use things like absorption to reduce the reflection of the sound, that is much what a lid is doing when we close the lid on it. I mean, if I go like this, you can clearly hear that my voice has changed. And essentially what we do when we close the lid is that exactly. The sound that is coming out of this guy is going to be hitting those walls, coming back into the microphone, and it's going to jeopardize our signal. There's no two ways about it. Oh, that's so cool. Do it again.